How do you even begin to tell the story of a place as huge and diverse as Canada in just a few images? Well, one of the best ways is to look at its symbols. So that's exactly what we're going to do. We're diving into Canada's story, told through its most powerful and iconic emblems.
All right, so what on earth do a leaf, a beaver, and a crown have in common? I mean, it sounds kind of like the start of a weird joke, right? But for Canada, these aren't just random objects. They're actually key threads woven right into the fabric of the nation's story.
And that's the answer, right there. Think of it like a giant puzzle. You've got these different pieces: history, industry, government. And when you put them all together, you start to get the bigger picture of what it really means to be Canadian.
Okay, so where do we start this journey? Well, let's begin with the basics, the official stuff. We're talking about the symbols that represent the actual structure and authority of the Canadian state. First on the list is the Canadian crown. And look, this is way more than just kings and queens and fancy hats. For something like 400 years, it's been a symbol of the state itself. Since 1867, it's been the symbol of Canada as a constitutional monarchy. So what does that actually mean? It means the monarch is the head of state, but the real power to govern, that rests with the parliament that we elect. It's all about stable, continuous government. But, what does the crown mean for you and me in our daily lives? Well, it's the symbolic authority that's behind all the big institutions that run the country. We're talking about Parliament, which makes the laws, the courts, which uphold them, and even the police and the military, who are there to protect everyone. It's kind of like the invisible thread of lawful power that connects them all. So, after the incredible, unimaginable sacrifice of the First World War, there was this huge wave of national pride. And that led to Canada adopting an official coat of arms. And it's basically a story in a picture. It's got symbols for England, France, Scotland, and Ireland all woven together. But right in there, you see Canada's own red maple leaves. It's a perfect way of saying, yeah, we remember where we came from, but we're also our own thing now. And right there on the coat of arms, you'll find the national motto, Amari Usca Ad Mare. It's Latin, and it means from sea to sea. And you can't get much more Canadian than that, right? It just perfectly captures the mind-boggling scale of the country's geography, which has been a core part of its identity from day one. Okay, so from the motto, let's go to the physical heart of the nation, the Parliament buildings. Now, to really get why they're so significant, to understand their story of resilience, we have to talk about one specific dramatic year, 1916. So back in 1916, this just awful fire completely destroyed the original center block. A total disaster. But what happened next is the amazing part. It was a rebirth right out of the ashes. The building was rebuilt, and then in 1927, they added the Peace Tower. And this wasn't just some fancy addition. It's a stunning piece of architecture for sure, but more importantly, it's a memorial to all the sacrifices made in the Great War. It even has a special chamber inside with the names of the fallen. All right, we've talked about the foundations of the state. Now, let's move on to probably the most visible symbol of all, the national flag. And trust me, its story is super fascinating. It's all about evolution and a country really finding its own voice. Believe it or not, for almost 100 years, Canada's flag was something called the Red Ensign. But, the country was changing, its identity was shifting. A really big step happened in 1921, when red and white were declared the official national colors, which is cool because those colors have deep ties to both England and France. This whole journey finally led to 1965, the moment the iconic maple leaf flag we all know today was raised for the very first time. And when you see them side by side, it tells you everything. The old red ensign with that big Union Jack on it, a clear, obvious link to its colonial past. But the maple leaf flag from '65, that was a deliberate break. It was a bold statement that said, we are uniquely Canadian. That awesome red and white pattern was actually inspired by the Royal Military College flag. And right in the middle, of course, was the maple leaf, a symbol that had represented the nation for ages, way before it ever made it onto a flag. And hey, that's the perfect lead-in to our next part. Because a lot of Canada's most beloved symbols, they don't come from some government committee. Nope, they're drawn right from the land itself, from its incredible natural landscape and its deep heritage. Yeah, the maple leaf wasn't just picked in 1965, it was earned. Its roots as a Canadian symbol go way, way back. We're talking French Canadians adopting it back in the 1700s. It was on military uniforms for more than 100 years. And this one really gets you. It's carved into the headstones of fallen soldiers. So long before it was official, it was already the unofficial heart of the nation.
And then, of course, we have the beaver. I mean, who doesn't love the beaver? This hardworking little rodent was the engine of the fur trade, the whole economy that literally built early Canada. It was the symbol for the super powerful Hudson's Bay Company, and you can still find it on the nickel today. It's just this small, constant reminder of a history built on pure grit and resourcefulness.
And we absolutely can't forget the fleur de lis. This symbol of French royalty goes back 1,000 years. It came over with the colony of New France, and today it's still this incredibly powerful emblem of Canada's deep French heritage. It's right there, front and center on the flag of Quebec. Okay, so we've covered the state, we've covered the land, but what about the people? Let's dive into the symbols that really define the Canadian experience, the culture. You know, there's almost nothing that reflects a culture better than its sports. And yeah, obviously there's hockey. It's Canada's gift to the world, and it's the official winter sport. But did you know that the official summer sport is lacrosse? It's a game with ancient Indigenous roots. Then you've got curling, which connects back to the country's Scottish pioneers. And the fact that soccer has the most registered players of any sport, that tells you everything you need to know about Canada's modern, multicultural fabric.
And it goes beyond the playing field. Language itself is a huge symbol. The Official Languages Act of 1969, that did way more than just put English and French on equal footing. It was a statement. It embraced this idea that the partnership between these two founding cultures, and yeah, even the creative tension that comes with it, is a fundamental part of what it means to be Canadian. And that brings us to our final, and maybe most important section. Because when you strip it all away, the flags, the buildings, the animals, what's the ultimate symbol of any nation? It's the people, especially those who show just incredible, extraordinary courage. In Canada, the ultimate symbol of that courage is the Victoria Cross, or the VC. This is the highest honor you can get. It's only awarded for the most conspicuous, unbelievable acts of bravery or self-sacrifice right in the face of the enemy. And just think about how rare this is. Since 1854, only 96 Canadians have ever received it. That's it. And behind every single one of those medals is a remarkable story. So let's just focus on one of them, the story of a man named Abel Seaman William Hall from Nova Scotia. Now just let this sink in for a second. William Hull was the son of American slaves. In 1857, during the Siege of Lucknow, his bravery was so incredible that he became the first Black man ever to be awarded the Victoria Cross. His story? It's not just about courage under fire. It's a symbol of overcoming these enormous barriers and serving with the absolute highest distinction. So, from the crown to the Victoria Cross, from the beaver to the maple leaf, each of these symbols tells a piece of a much bigger story. A story of government, of nature, of culture, and of this incredible human spirit. And together, they help unite a really diverse nation. So that just leaves one last question for you to think about. What symbol do you think best represents Canada?